Women are feeling upset and furious due to a growing trend of men not approaching them. This shift in behavior can be attributed to various factors. Society is well aware of how things have changed over time, and men no longer approach women in the same manner as before. This transformation has undoubtedly affected the dating scene. The dating landscape today is vastly different from the past decades, such as the 70s or 80s, when dating was primarily a non-digital game-like experience. Women often display a negative attitude when men make honest attempts to approach them, which creates additional barriers. Moreover, dating itself has undergone significant and revolutionary changes due to the influence of social media. Merely scrolling through social media platforms reveals countless discussions among women expressing their desire for men to approach them in the traditional way. These women are essentially conveying to men that unless they are respectfully approached and asked out, they will not entertain any advances. The underlying issue here is the lack of basic empathy on the part of these women. They are genuinely puzzled as to why men are not reaching out to them in this particular scenario, why more men seem reluctant to approach women in the future, and what motivates this aversion to approaching women in general. In essence, men are exhausted from being deceived, rejected, manipulated, used, cheated on, and ignored. This weariness has contributed to their reluctance to approach women.
I noticed that a lot of females wonder why dudes don't try to holler at them anymore. It's not because you're ugly or anything like that. It's just that shit has become so difficult. Back in the day, the worst thing we had to worry about was getting rejected. Nowadays, we gotta worry about getting screenshot, called thirsty, and the worst of them all, getting a video of us getting rejected, put on the internet. The funny thing about the females who like to screenshot and call you thirsty is when the screenshot is coming from a text message conversation that y'all had. How thirsty can I possibly be if I already have your number? Y'all never fail to mention that he's thirsty, but y'all always fail to mention how he got your number.
The approach of males towards women has changed significantly from the past few decades. In earlier times, there were no direct means of contacting women, regardless of their geographical distance. Before the advent of social media, cell phones, and the internet, there were limited channels for interaction. Men had to physically approach women to demonstrate their interest. In the modern world, men and women can communicate with each other at any time and from any location. In the past, dating required a considerable amount of effort and planning. It was often more exciting, as there were no options to check someone's profile on social media. One relied on a mental image of the person they saw and fell in love with. Consequently, men felt compelled to approach women face to face and ask them out, as that was the customary practice. Moreover, people tended to date within their own social circles, and long distances posed challenges. In contrast, today's dating landscape is characterized by multiple distractions and online interactions. When searching for someone on social media, individuals may find themselves interested in several potential matches. They engage in sporadic online conversations while simultaneously being absorbed in group chats or trying to capture the perfect picture for Instagram. Despite being more connected than ever, we are paradoxically disconnected from one another and from reality. So why do men hesitate to approach women nowadays? The main reason is that men tend to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of their actions. Unfortunately, the disadvantages of approaching women in today's society far outweigh the benefits. Approaching women often leads to rejection, being labeled as a creep, or being ignored and ostracized by society. This perception stems from the fact that many men are perceived by women as predators or desperate individuals.
To know, single men, why you don't pursue anymore?
So there's two main reasons that come to mind. First, a lot of guys don't want to come off as creepy or offend a woman. And second, women nowadays are really bad at giving indicators of interest. For example, a woman will see a man that she's interested in, and she'll look at him and then go back about her business. And she'll think, since she looked at the man, that was enough of an indicator for him to know that she was interested in him. Now, from the man's point of view, he might have just walked into a cafe, saw a woman that was sitting there doing something. She looked at him and then she went back to her business. So he'll think either one, she's not interested in him since she went back to whatever it is that she's doing, or two, she may or may not be interested in him, and he's oftentimes he won't be sure if he should talk to her or not. So if you're a woman who does that, make it easy for the guy. Look at him, give him a prolonged stare, and smile. Let him know the water's warm. You're friendly to talk to.
If a woman already knows a guy and wants him to contact her, that's a different situation. However, for a male to approach an unfamiliar woman, the risks involved are significant. There's the fear of complete ignorance, social embarrassment, and the general dread of rejection. It seems too hazardous to attempt starting a conversation with a lady, as she is likely to humiliate him more often than not. To understand why this is happening, we must acknowledge that different women respond differently to different men. The issue lies in the fact that women expect men to approach them in the same manner as in the past. But times have changed. In the past, both men and women felt more comfortable with their traditional roles. Men understood their responsibility to support women, while women recognized their duty to care for men by bearing children and nurturing their families. Consequently, it was customary for men to approach women, and women expected such advances. However, those days of approaching ladies have passed, and the reality is no longer the same. Women still anticipate the same royal treatment they received in the past because they are unaware of the shifting dynamics. They feel entitled to everything, even in the present, as they have grown accustomed to receiving everything from men. The reason males no longer approach women is due to the current state of affairs. There is no justification for men to treat women differently when the dynamics have changed. Woke feminist women advocate for equality and demand to be treated equally, yet they also desire the comforts of traditional roles. They want to take on a man's role in society, but still yearn for the privileges of the past. This inconsistency epitomizes insincerity. Men today have chosen not to engage in actions that may be perceived as disrespectful or invalidating by women. They have observed the deteriorating treatment they receive from women. Consequently, they prioritize their own integrity and self-respect over the disdain and denigration shown by women. I see no reason to approach ladies, especially when I hear stories of women reporting men to the police for simply approaching them. In most cases, there was nothing wrong with the men, except that they didn't fit the women's ideal standards of appearance and wealth. So why subject oneself to such an ordeal?
And let me say this, I rarely walk up to women. I rarely approach women. And it's not that I'm not confident or I'm scared. Those are not the reasons. The only reason that I don't approach women, because one, I know my worth, right? I know I'm the prize. I'm not saying that women are not the prize, or she wasn't. I'm just saying I know I'm a prize.
A significant proportion of women are simply not worth approaching anymore. They seem to seek public validation from men to show off in their circles and to humiliate the guy in return. However, as more men refrain from approaching them, they find themselves lacking that validation. Men are waking up to these realities and no longer have the time to waste on women who make interacting with them pointless. Women seem unaware of how unfairly the game is rigged against men. Men are no longer willing to tolerate unsupportive behavior no more. This trend started in 2023 and is expected to continue for the next 10 years. As a result, men will cease approaching women, as it will become an expected norm. Women will have to put in significant effort to capture a man's attention and obtain the validation they once received effortlessly. Despite women's independence, wisdom, and liberation, validation remains their top priority. They constantly seek approval from men and other women. What's crucial is that more and more men are realizing that it's best to avoid approaching women unless they are confident of receiving a positive response. Men have become aware of women's historical tendency to play with men's emotions for amusement or to boost their own egos by rejecting them. Men now see beyond this and are unwilling to take unnecessary risks. For men to consider approaching women, women need to up their game and present themselves as accessible. They must demonstrate sincerity, honesty, positivity, cheerfulness, and empathy. What do you think? Tell us down in the comments section. Be sure to subscribe and activate the notifications bell, champs. Also like and share the video. Thank you for watching.